This is Algebra Lesson 2.1, solving one-step equations. So first I want to talk about what inverse operations are. Now there's four basic operations that we're going to be doing on this page. Those operations are plus, minus, times, and divide. An inverse operation is an operation that undoes another operation. So basically the opposite. So if the operation we're talking about is plus, the opposite of plus is minus, and the opposite of minus is plus. To undo a plus or a minus, you use the opposite one, the inverse. The opposite of times is divide, and the opposite of divide is times. So again, to undo a times, you do a divide, and to undo a divide, you do a times. So we are going to practice using inverse operations to solve some one-step equations. One step means we're only going to have to do one thing to find the answer. So example A says solve x minus 5 equals 13. The operation that I see combining the x and the 5 is a minus, and the inverse of minus is plus. So to solve this, I'm trying to get the x by itself. I need to add 5 to both sides of the equation. And what that does is it keeps the equation equal if I do it on both sides, and I'm unsubtracting 5 by adding 5. A minus 5 and a plus 5 are 0, so they eliminate. The x is left on the left, and on the right, 13 plus 5 makes 18. Now, to check my answer, I'm going to substitute the 18 in for the x of the original equation. That is 18, take away 5. And if I do 18 take away 5, I get 13, which is what I started with, so I have the correct answer. Letter B says solve negative 8 equals n minus 4. Now this is almost the exact setup, but I have my answer on the left side. We're going to do the exact same thing. Doesn't really make a difference. I have n take away 4. I want to untake away 4 to figure out what that unknown quantity is. The opposite of take away 4 is plus 4. So if I untake away 4 and keep this equation equal, negative 8 and 4 makes negative 4. I'm going to substitute negative 4 into the right side of the equation this time. Negative 4 minus 4, and I know that makes negative 8, so negative 4 is the correct answer. Example C says negative 4x equals 1. We want to solve that. So we talked about in chapter 1, when there's no visible operation between our variable and our coefficient, that is a multiplication. This is negative 4 times x equals 1. So we're going to undo a times with a divide. We're going to divide both sides of this equation by negative 4. When we have the same thing on the top and the bottom of a fraction, they divide to 1, that invisible 1 that's no longer there. So we still have the invisible 1 on that x, and on the right side, negative 1 divided by 4. We can leave this in fraction form, we can switch to decimal form, whatever is easier for you. So negative 1/4 or negative 0.25. To check my answer, negative 4 times negative 1/4 is in fact 1, so that is the correct answer. Example D shows me solve x over 5 equals negative 30. X over is the same thing as divide. Right now we're dividing by 5. Our inverse to division is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides of this equation by 5. So the 5 eliminates to that invisible 1. And negative 30 times 5 is negative 150. And to check my answer, negative 150 divided by 5 is in fact negative 30. So we have the right answer. I got one word problem. Letter E says you owe X dollars to your cousin. You paid $12 back, and now you owe $4. Write an equation to represent the situation, then calculate how much you owed. So you owe your cousin X dollars. You paid back 12, so I'm going to subtract 12 from that unknown quantity, and now we owe 4. So if we want to figure out how much we owed in the first place, let's unpay back 12. Let's add that 12 back to the total that we currently owe, and originally we owed him $16. That's it for the notes. Good luck on the exercises, and please let me know if you have any questions.